So my name is Michael Randolph, and I'm with the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development. Today's workshop is going to talk about looking at new and different income streams of income that nonprofits can pursue. It's called the end of the 501c3 and the start of the L3C. You're going to learn a lot about the L3C and the next level up for nonprofits. So let's talk about some of our services, and we have a lot of services. Anywhere from working with groups to put together professional businesses as well as grant proposals. Working with groups to do innovative program and project development and project evaluation, community organizing and mobilizing, strategic and tactical planning, social entrepreneur, and we're going to talk a lot about that related to the L3C. Government procurement, there's a lot of federal and government money out there. We work with groups that's trying to go for that. Organizational development, sustainability, and capacity building. Also, swap analogy, 501c3 preparation, board training, need assessment, and feasibility study, a lot. When it comes to nonprofits, our focus is, in addition to giving the hard skills, is to work with nonprofits and creating what we call power. A power-driven nonprofit consists of different types of capital. The first is people capital. The second is social capital, financial capital, strategic capital, skill capital, and finally, political capital. All these different types of capital go into creating a strong nonprofit and a sustainable nonprofit. So let's talk about the different types of funding that fund charitable organizations. So a tax-exempt organization must meet the IRS requirements that it pays at least 5% of its funds towards a charitable project. And they can do this in two ways. Most of us here that are nonprofit, we're familiar with grants to nonprofits that do charitable work, specifically 501c3. Another way that foundations can meet that requirement from the IRS is what's known as profit-related investments. These investments is anywhere from no to low interest rates. So what is a L3C company? Well, an L3C is a low profit, limited liability company. It is a unique liability company that composed of a nonprofit and a for-profit characteristic. Let's talk about what are the requirements in order to become an LLC. First, it is significantly furthers the accomplishment of one or more of charitable or educational purposes. It must not have it must not have as a significant purpose the production of income or appreciation of property. It does not have as a purpose the accomplishment accomplishment of one or more political or legislative purposes. Let's talk about the difference between the L3C and the 501c3, and let's start with funding mechanisms. Now, as you know, nonprofit organizations have a wealth of funding options, from foundations, corporations, government entities, and donations. The L3C was structured to attain program-related investments. Nonprofits are generally prevented from investing in for-profit businesses. On the other hand, LC3 may invest in businesses through the PRS as long as the business in some way promotes the foundation charitable purpose. One of the benefits of this type of funding is financial self-sufficiency. One of the ways that we achieve this purpose is through continual foundation input. That means a continued source of revenue from foundations in terms of low interest loans. The other thing is the leveling of angel and venture capital, as well as capital flow to double bottom line ventures. That is a win-win for both the for-profit and the nonprofit. And thirdly, and probably the most important, is investment. We're going to talk a little bit about investment a little bit later on, especially related to equity investment. Let's talk about equity investment. Give me a second here. Actually, before we get to equity investment, let's look at some of the other benefits related to the program-related investment funding. First, interest, you can get interest-free or below market loans. You increase your loan participation in loan guarantees, deposits in community development banks, equity investment, and leases. Leases is important, as you know, especially banks that are a lot of buildings. So you definitely can lease space out of a building. So let's move forward. As you can see, there's a lot of benefits to the LC3. One of the most important, and I've talked about it earlier, is an example of equity investment. Well, under L3C, the owner investment in his business is equity. There's investment. They can also get investments in shares of public company, acquisitions of stake in another company through merger, venture capital investments in startup, private equity investment in mature companies, common stock, preferred shares, fund that hold stocks, such as exchange trade funds and mutual funds, American depository receipt, investment in either common stock and or in substance common stock of equity entities, as well as investment in entities such as partnership unincorporated joint ventures, and other limited liability company. As for the for-profit sides, the LLC can actually raise capital by issuing debt as well as selling shares. So as you can see, it's a different monster as to how the L3C can bring in monies, unlike the regular 501c3 that we're so used to. So what are some of the uses that can come into play as a result of the twin L3C? Again, I can't overemphasize the amount of money that can come in now. That money can go to developers of affordable housing or below market space for local entrepreneurs, medical laboratories focus on developing cures for rare conditions, social service providers, anywhere from rent, helping people with their rent, to you, to family, everything that falls under social services. In addition, artistic enterprise, local news organization. These are some of the things that can be funded with this. So now let's talk about some examples of L3Cs. One is the Chicago Overflow Coffee Bar. Now, this is a coffee shop dedicated to bringing members of their community together. The next is the Chicago Community Loan Fund. It provides loans to community development organizations in Chicago. Since it began in 1991, they have funded over $200 million in loans to more than 300 organizations. The Vermont Sustainable Job Fund. This particular L3C provides capital to business specializing in sustainable and environmentally friendly practices. Since 1995, they have invested $5 million in more than 50 businesses. And then there's the Michigan Good Food Fund. This particular L3C provides financing and business assistance to food enterprise that increase access to healthy food in underserved communities. Since 2015, it has invested more than $13 million in over 100 businesses. So some other examples of this shouldn't be equity investment. Yeah, I'm sorry. This should be other examples of L3Cs. I'm sorry, it has examples of investments. Forget that, I made a mistake. This should be the continuation of the different types of L3Cs. So you also have, give me a second while I move some things around. The Overflow Bar. This particular L3C provides space for community members to gather and connect to over coffee. The Vermont Sustainable Job Fund, Flexible Capital Fund. Wow. This particular L3C provides capital to businesses specializing in sustainable and environmentally friendly practices. Then you have the Center for Rural Affairs. This LLC provides business development services to rural communities. Now, in addition to those things that we talked about, you also can fund daycare centers, affordable housing, business development, community gardens, homelessness, the arts, youth programs, workforce training, education, and more. Now, how do you start a L3C? This should be L3C. I have it backwards. I apologize. So the first thing you want to do is to find your articles of organization with your state. That should consist of the name of your L3C, the purpose, and there's some language that you have to have in there to qualify to qualify your purpose statement. That's some language. We'll be happy to share that with you if you want us to work with you in developing your own. In addition to that, you should register. You must have a registered agent information, management structure, a duration of your L3C, and a tax identification number. Now, I would add that you also should have a business plan and a strategic plan. For those nonprofits that are existing, you can create an L3C as your for-profit arm. If you don't, and you're not in one of those states that have it, then you can actually, if you are if your organization is national in scope, you can actually go and file for foreign recognition in a state that does recognize that type of nonprofit in order to help bring in monies for your nonprofit in the state that you're operating in that wouldn't let you bring in the money. That is, the LLC can actually contribute to and provide grants to the 501c3 corporation. So let's talk more about the difference between the 501c3 and the L3C. One of the differences is taxation. LLCs are allowed to make profits which are taxable by the IRS. On the other hand, 501c3 generally are not structured to make profit. The other difference in the two types of organization is how they distribute organization assets. Nonprofits are prohibited from distributing its assets and to its owners and its board of directors. When a nonprofit ends, it must give that assets and everything they have to another nonprofit, the government, or faith-based group. That's not the case for L3C. Now, what's also interesting about an L3C is that it's permitted to distribute the proceeds from its activities to its owners. So let's talk about how many and where. Currently, since 2020, there's over 1,700 L3Cs in the following states that you're looking at. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 7, 9 states. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 states and counting. So if you're not in one of these states, you should begin to create the type of L3C structure that we talk about. Because sooner or later, this model is going to be spreading throughout the United States. If you are a nonprofit and you want to get in on this, you can simply start a foreign corporation in any of these states here. That's a way of bringing in income to your current 501c3 because it's limited in terms of the funds it can bring in. The funds are only if it's donations, if it's government money or foundation money. So it's limited. With the L3C in another state, you can bring in that type of money from all of those different revenue streams in order to fund your for-profit in your state. And you can do this by the L3C providing grants to that organization. Look, I hope this has helped you. We actually are one of the first technical providers to nonprofits to provide this type of training, new type of training for L3Cs. I know we're starting an L3C in one of these states as well. So if you're interested in starting it, we can do all the paperwork, especially the business plan and the strategic plan in order to qualify for an L3C in any of these states. So that being said, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight's class. And look for us. Reach us at the Center for Nonprofit and Community at gmail.com. Again, the Center for Nonprofit and Community at gmail.com.
You stand for Outreach Corporations.